Good morning. Yeah, as mentioned in my biodata, I teach English, so that's my area. But my PhD is in lifelong learning and adult education. That's why I try to merge the two fields, as is indicated in the title. Right. The title might look a bit interesting or strange, bizarre. I focus on adjectives. Are there linguists among us? I think there are some linguists among us, yeah. So these will mean quite a lot to linguists in particular. But what I'm going to talk to you about, I believe will be very relevant to everyone if you are engaged in writing academic texts, which I believe almost all of us are doing. Okay, before we start, I've got 4 words here. Can you guess, the linguists, can you be quiet please at this stage? Can you guess, not guess or tell me, which one is not an adjective? There is one that doesn't belong to the group. Yeah, okay, yes. Yes, D is the right answer. Information is not an adjective, it's a noun, okay? We'll talk about what adjective really means in more detail. I mean, you will probably remember what an adjective is from your primary school studies as well, probably. Not only, universities. Anyway, okay, I've got this picture. Have you seen this before at all? It's quite famous. Yeah, it's quite famous. Can I ask you to give me a few adjectives to describe what you see here? Only adjectives, right? Right. The biggest one for me, I'll give you one, is happy. Okay, I think it's kind of, people say this is the picture of happiness to so many people. Happy is the first thing that comes to my mind. Can you give me other adjectives, please? Any? That's a noun. Compassionate is the adjective. What else? Yes. Calm, yeah. Other. Peaceful, yeah. Yes, crowded. You look at, they've got one bed. They're all sharing the bed. It's similar to me, my wife, and my son, who still comes to our bed at night, but we're not that crowded. Okay? Yeah, what about the weather? Can you see the weather outside? I don't know. Yeah, is it shiny? Okay. Okay, there are some raindrops there. Okay. Night. Okay, dark. Maybe it's dark. Okay. Several things. Okay, thank you. What about this one? All right. What about this one? Okay, you have 2 different things. Can you give me some adjectives here, if possible? Any would be relevant. Expensive. Okay, that's one. Expensive. Okay, descriptive.
Big shirt or less shirt.
Okay, big, less, small. You see, the silence here tells me something, right? The comparison between this one and this one, I mean, when I ask you to give me adjectives, right? Yeah, okay. The idea, which I seem to have some indications of here as well, is that in academic discourse, this would be academic discourse, right? Adjectives are not that common, they say, right? In arts, arts in particular, adjectives might be more common, right? But in this presentation, I will try to not prove, but I'll try to show that that may not always be the case. It really depends on our understanding of what adjectives are, right? So before we talk about what adjectives are, I'd like to talk to you about writing for scholars like us, the value of it, the importance of it, and the difficulty of writing. Can you raise your hands if English is your mother tongue? Okay, we got one person. Okay, now can you please raise your hands, or raise your hands if you find writing easy, writing in English easy. Right? You see, even the native speakers are not hesitant to raise their hands. Writing is not an easy skill, especially writing for academic purposes, right? It's not easy. But it is a must for us to succeed in academia. You know, there is the famous saying, publish or, yes, you see, you know, how do you publish? You have to write. Yeah? Okay. Obviously, research is very, very important in academia for us. We need to research and publish our research results, right? If we don't do that, we can't spread the scientific knowledge. Even the presentation here, even if I present my research orally here, if I don't publish it, it will be very limited, right? Yes, it is something, but it is a must for us to publish our research in one venue or another. So what do people do? What do you do? Or how did you write? How did you learn to write? You know, many people look at publication manuals. Social scientists, we look at APA, right? And engineers look at other things, IEEE, there is MLA, etc., etc. People look at publication manuals. Publication manuals tell us a lot about grammar, about vocabulary, not just citation style and this and that. Well, it appears that many people consult publication manuals mainly for citation and referencing styles or table formatting and all this other. Of course, they're important, but APA in particular tells a lot about how to succeed in writing. So people do tend to look at that as well. And there are instructional books, instructional textbooks as well. People look at writing books. You know, this is a very lucrative area nowadays. People publish textbooks about how to write. There are some very famous ones. We look at these things. Now, research, yes, is very important in itself, but what makes research strong, right? Even master students, even PhD students ask these questions to us, like, well, how do I write my research article as well as their PhD dissertations or a thesis? Of course, there are certain things. Can you tell me what is very important in a research article? Okay, what do you mean? Can you explain that?
So what I'm trying to present.
Yes, the content. Yes. 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 So your research adds to your field, adds to it, maybe creates new knowledge or adds to the existing knowledge. So the content is very important, but let's say your content is very, very good, very relevant, but there are other things. You know, when you're writing a research paper, there are other things that we need to watch out for, be very careful with. What are other things?
Your style of writing.
Yes, your style of writing. What do you mean?
I mean your grammar, your vocabulary.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes. Yeah, that's the hallmark of this presentation. That was something that I was going to mention.
Sometimes some authors, they copy paste.
Yeah.
They do not know the exact style and the techniques of, arranging words.
Very good. Yeah, words or information. Yes, 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 yes. In a research article, your research methodology is very, very important, yeah? If what we have as content is really, really strong, but our research methodology is not strong, it won't be published. People will question the way you collected your data, and because of that, you might draw wrong conclusions, right? Methodology is very important, right? Your rationale for the study is very important. So why are you doing this research, right? It's kind of related to content, right? Your literature review needs to be strong, right? Plus, you don't write a literature review for a research article in the same way as you write for a PhD thesis, right? There are different kinds of literature reviews, right? And more or less, more often nowadays, I don't see the title literature review in research papers. More often, there is this introduction combined with the literature review, right? So it's important to know how to do these mergers here and there. But still, as you were also saying, all of these might be just beautiful, very good. But if your writing is not good enough, your writing skills are not good enough, the language is not good enough, it won't be published, right? The editors might say, go get it edited by a professional editor, for which you pay quite a bit of money at times, right? That's difficult, especially if the editor, the person who's editing, proofreading your paper is not from your field. It's difficult. They might change the wording, but the meaning might change. So it's important for us as scholars to know our grammar and vocabulary well, right? Whether it is in a foreign language or in our own L1 mother tongues, right? It's more difficult, obviously, in a foreign language, right? Yes, there are some competence areas. In all disciplines, what is important is the appropriacy of expression, right? And for this, discourse competence is one thing. This is, as you were also saying earlier, merging different ideas, making connection between ideas within paragraphs, within sections, within different chapters, even if it's a book or a thesis you're talking about. This is discourse competence. And there is the grammatical competence. Grammatical competence is the knowledge of grammar and lexis, in other words, vocabulary, right? If we know how to choose the correct words and putting them together, right, to make sense, our writing will be more meaningful to the reader. And the correct use of vocabulary, lexis, makes our writing descriptive, more descriptive and clear and interesting. I mean, we do describe a lot of stuff in our research, don't we? If it's a lab report, we describe how we did the experiment, for example. If it's a figure, if it is a graph, we describe. You can't just throw a graph in your text and move on. You have to describe what's in the graph, right? And the correct choice of words is at the heart of making our writing clear and interesting. Discourse community is an important notion for us linguists and language teachers. Discourse community, the idea was put forward initially by John Swales, and it got very, very popular. Now, what does it mean? A discourse community will be a group with certain goals and purposes, and uses communication to achieve these goals. So if you're talking about a certain discourse community, the members of that community has a certain goal, right? Their purposes, they got common purposes, and they use a language to communicate with each other, right? And that language is it may be specific to that group. So other people outside that discourse community may not understand these people 100%. So, for example, if you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you about your problem, you may not be able to understand what the doctor is saying because you don't speak the same language, right? It does happen, right? Or the prescription, you take it to the drugstore, they do understand what the doctor means, but you don't, right? And the person in the drugstore would tell you how to take the medicine in your words that you would understand. Now that's about discourse community, right? Now, scholars of educational science. Is everybody from education field here? Yeah, anybody from other sciences? Yeah, what is your? Political science is kind of a social science as well, isn't it? I think it's social science still. Education is a social science. Anyway, but still, your text, we may not understand your texts, your vocabulary, your lexes. We may not understand. But if you're writing for the general public, let's say you're writing for a newspaper, I think you will change. Would you change your vocabulary a little bit? Yeah. If you write very sophisticated way, like a scholar. Common people might not understand you, right? In Turkey, we have very famous journalists who use very common language, you know, the language that the man on the street would use. And you're like, you're a very sophisticated person, why are you using this language? But their aim is very specific. They want to reach those people, right? Anyway, so as scholars of educational sciences, we need to also use a specific lexis, vocabulary, a set of words, right? But it doesn't mean that we don't use general words. We have to use some general words. You know, there are some grammar words, like pronouns, I, we, you, they, and there are some linkers and, but, etc. These are general words. We have to use these words as well effectively. It has been shown that, in fact, in a typical academic text normally includes so many general words as high as 87%. Typically, it might be slightly lower or higher. So what does it mean? You know, if we want to be able to read an academic text, we have to learn the general words first. As non-native speakers, when you started learning English, did you start with the academic words or more general words? Well, general words, obviously. You have to be able to say that you are hungry first before you say you need to do a particular type of research, right? And education research articles, you know, I'm talking about research articles now, not education in general. I'm not talking about textbooks, it's about research articles. Education research articles are a distinct genre. So the language that is used in this distinct genre will differ from other types of texts in the same discipline. There will be overlaps, obviously, but there will be some differences. That's my expectation when I started this research, okay? Adjectives. So in this research, as a language teacher, I look at different aspects of language use. I've done several different studies, and for this one, I wanted to focus on adjectives, an interesting area. I like adjectives. But what is an adjective? Adjectives are words used to describe qualities, attributes, facts, or circumstances. So they describe a lot of different kinds of things. When I ask my 10-year-old son to give me some adjectives, he gives me certain types of adjectives, like descriptive ones, like tall, hungry, bored. He often says, I'm sick of this homework, you know? These are descriptive adjectives, right? Right? A sentence, Murray says, Murray is a very important name in academic writing. in EFL. Right, a sentence without adjectives obviously provide information, right? Any sentence would provide some information, but it doesn't say much, right? So according to Murray, we need to use adjectives to enrich our information in the sentence. They play a key role in our understanding attributes attached to nouns. Obviously, adjectives describe nouns, right? Adjectives describe nouns. And adjectives help us see distinctions between nouns. What is it? Why is it? Is this chair different from any other chairs? I don't know, the chairs in the common area out there, right? Now, the thing is, adjectives are very common in all registers, right? Remember the two pictures I showed you at the beginning? Yeah, it was more difficult for us to find adjectives for the second. But in fact, it is shown that they are quite common in all registers, particularly written registers. And research articles are written, yeah? They are written discourse, okay? And there is the idea that they are quite important in academic prose, academic writing. And they add to the informational density of expository registers. So they provide quite a bit of information. Now, why do we say they're so, how do we know that they're so common in academic discourse? Right. Now, one thing is there are different types of adjectives. You'll be surprised to see some of these, as I was probably. As late, as early as 1858, right? They were studied, adjectives were studied by scholars. And they found there are three types of adjectives. The first one is a qualitative adjective, right? These denote some quality or attribute. And there is the quantitative adjectives. You might have never thought words like few, more, most, both, all, as adjectives. Apparently they're adjectives. Why? Because they describe nouns, right? All the students, right? They describe nouns. Whatever you use to describe a noun would be then an adjective, right? Of course, these are also categorized as quantifiers, right? And there is the demonstrative or determinative adjectives. So they specify what we're talking about. You might have never thought things like ordinal numbers, the first, the second, third, or adjective pronouns, or adjective, like things like my, your, my sister, your car, etc. These are also categorized as adjectives, right? When you think of all these groups, I mean, you will see that adjectives are very common, right? I mean, you can't, especially these, if you take them as grammar words, you can't write without using these things. But in this study, I felt like looking at all of these different types might be too overwhelming and not very necessary. I wanted to see the qualitative adjectives in my expertise area, which is lifelong learning and adult education. It's a small-scale study, obviously. And adjectives are categorized according to their semantic domains as well. Right, what are these? They could be descriptors, and these could fall into these categories: size, time, color, evaluative ones, relational ones, right? And they could be classifiers, and they could be topical or affiliative. In my study, I didn't look at the affiliative ones either. I thought they may not be so important to identify in this study, right? And when we say time, it's more like the quality of the thing. Like it's a new car, it's an old apartment block, etc., etc. And look at this, topical, domain, economic, human, international. Would you not expect to see many of these things in an academic text, right? Social sciences, political sciences, etc. You see, we already used topical adjectives. Yeah, okay. Okay, apparently, relational and topical adjectives occur quite often in academic writing. And we use descriptor categories of size and evaluation in academic writing as well. Evaluation is particularly important when we are writing our discussion section of a research article, right? You'll see some examples of that, okay? Now, when we are writing research papers, it's very important for us to emphasize our claims, and how significant our results are in different ways, right? As an associate editor for the Asian ESP journal, if an author doesn't do this, we don't necessarily reject the paper, but we say, please highlight the significance of your study. Don't just present your results, okay? Your results look interesting, but you need to do the job for your readers, right? Evaluate those results, and for this, they need to use quite a few adjectives. Yeah, I can skip that, I think. Okay, and it has been found that social science research articles apparently use more adjectives than hard sciences, apparently, right? In physics research article, there might be fewer instances of adjectives, but social sciences, as I think we're all social scientists here, we do use adjectives. Now, here is a text from my corpus, from a research article. Can you try to identify the adjectives, the qualitative adjectives used here? Just have a look. What's the first one, do you think? That's the first one, qualitative study. Yes. Second? Community-based. Emancipatory. Emancipatory pedagogy is a big thing for adult education discipline. Emancipatory pedagogy. What else? Changing, global, you see 3 adjectives in sequence, right? Like, etc. You see, there is more. We'll come back to this. Yeah, there is more. We'll come back to that, okay? Here, look at that. Almost all of it. Not all of it, obviously. In this small paragraph, there are 95 words. And out of this number, 17 are adjectives, which accounts for 28.4% of the whole text. Isn't it a lot? It's more than 1/4 of the whole text. So how could someone say adjectives are not used as commonly as normal other types of text in academic prose? It's wrong. It's false information. Of course, this is only one sample, right? When I take other samples into consideration, this number will go down, you'll see. Now, can we give a general rule about using adjectives? No, we can't. I can't. It will be very problematic. Yeah? Authors need to use their own discretion regarding their choices of language. We do, as an editor for our journal, we do not want to limit authors' use of language, but they need to be strategic in using their language, right? For non-native speakers, unfortunately, it's more of a problem, because more often they don't feel like they own the language. It's not their language, so they're like, okay, but my vocabulary is not that strong. So they tend to use basic language, to be on the safe side. No, you know, you are an author. You're going to make claims, right? Show agency in your writing. Okay. Obviously, different sections of research articles may not use adjectives as often as other sections, like the results section may not, or the methodology section may not contain as many adjectives as other sections like the discussion section. But it's worth investigation, right? Yeah. Yeah. In the discussion section, look, okay, evaluative meanings, right? It's not possible to draw any firm conclusions. You see, this is a very important way of drawing conclusions from our results. And there is the use of evaluative adjectives here. Yes. Now, lifelong learning and adult education, obviously, I can't make big claims about my particular discipline by just looking at a few research articles. But this is for me, this was, you know, a small-scale study, you know, more of a, have a look and see for myself. I can't generalize the results, right? Now, what I did, I looked at 30 research articles. This is very, for corpus linguistics, this is very, very small. If I send it to Q1 journal, they will reject it, I would believe. 183,000 words is very, very limited for corpus linguistics. I looked at 10 different journals, okay? But I wanted to make sure that they were peer-reviewed journals, you know, not just anything published. And I looked at research articles with a similar generic organizational structure. So that would allow me to make comparisons, right? And I didn't check the author's L1 mother tongue, right? For two reasons. One, it's particularly impossible to see who is a native speaker and who is not. By looking at a name only, we would be fooled. Right? Another thing, English is used as lingua franca nowadays. So any English would be all right to me. As you know, one of my criterion here was that it was published in a peer-reviewed journal. If something was published in a peer-reviewed journal, I would expect it to be of a certain quality. I should finish, I suppose, soon. Okay. Anyway, very briefly, okay. Out of the total number of words I studied, I found 7.9% of adjectives. You see the number went down, right? Yeah, but still it's a significant number. And remember, these are only qualitative adjectives, right? Okay, look at the frequency. These are more general words. Okay, these are more generalist words. And there's academic word. Okay, you see, most of the words, adjectives, adjectives were from academic word list, academic words. And there were some off-list words which will be more specific to that particular genre, the discipline, right? Okay, yeah. And here are some examples. You see social, lifelong, high, different, etc., etc. Yeah, some examples. And you see the frequencies there. Okay, and this is more interesting. I looked at different sections of the articles. You see, in the abstract, interestingly enough, adjectives were used more often than other sections. Interesting. Abstract is a short, text, right? But more adjectives, probably to highlight the importance of the research as well as the domain, probably. And then there was the discussion section, which was followed by introduction. Don't we highlight the necessity of the research in the introduction more often? And the discussion, we highlight the importance of our findings. So it's only natural that we have more use of adjectives in these sections. Right. Results section, as you see, not bad, 8.4. No, that's the discussion, sorry. Oh, okay, I made a mistake there. There is the conclusion and discussion. In the conclusion as well, we highlight the significance of our study, don't we? And methodology, as you see, 6.6. And the results, 7.6. And characteristics type of descriptors were used more often, and there is a topical domain, obviously, right? And this, I'm not surprised to see this. And evaluative ones were quite good as well. Okay, so what does all this say to us? In my particular discipline, I found very frequent use of academic words, and that might be the case in your disciplines as well, I don't know, right? Worth checking, okay. I feel like adjectives could be used because of authors' authorial orientation, which means to highlighting their agency in their writing. You know, we need to do that. As authors, we need to show that we are the experts of our fields or of that particular research, and highlight our orientation. Obviously, content is important. We talked about content, right? It makes a big difference in terms of the lexis, type of lexis that we need to use, and the nature of research. Qualitative research would probably, require more adjectives. Okay, right. I'm finished already. Okay. The last thing, I think we should not be discouraged from using strong language for objectivity purposes. Quite often, reviewers say, "Be objective, be objective." Why should I be objective? What do you mean? What do you mean by objective? It's my research. These are my findings. Especially if it's a strong research, let's show ourselves and be proud of ourselves, and show it using our language. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or any comments, I'll be happy to hear. Yeah.
Thank you. I learned quite a bit of things, and in fact, it was a good starter for the morning and a good orientation. I'll go backwards. First of all, I've seen this tendency, especially with people from South Asia, with the authority part of the orientation, and strong language for objectivity. They feel that if they use strong language, they're putting emphasis. So that's one thing. But of course, after getting some global orientation, they probably then try to moderate their voices. And the second part is the problem that I have in my discipline, economics, because the more and more our audience and some of those I expect that we try to quantify, or at least say, because the economics, narratives is not, it's not something that we can do too much in our discipline. We probably have to do a little bit of quantification, and from there we probably have to use, even if we don't want to, have to use some of these in the semantics, the classifiers instead of the descriptive.
Yeah,
so
possible.
We use more classifiers.
Possible, yeah.
Especially in our discipline, because we have more technical terms.
Yeah. I think it will be good to do some kind of a comparative study between different disciplines or sub-disciplines. This is just my own discipline. I wanted to see the language used in my own discipline, right? But further research can be done. Thank you very much, yes.